Hi, welcome to Matt's Garage. Today is going to be an informational episode for anybody who's doing a 302 swap or trying to do Explorer front dress or fueling or wiring or anything related to the Ford 302 family. There's a lot of forum information, but there's not like one place you can go to for a lot of detailed information. So I'm going to try to cover some of it today and help you guys out so you don't have to go searching forever like I've been. Before I dive into the engine bay, let me just show you a couple things I've finished overview-wise, and then we'll get into the details. My hardtop has been stripped and has Bondo on it, and now is a storage device. I just got the support bow and headliner and stuff from Tom's, so that's on the back burner. On this side of the shop, the doors are shot and have been curing for a few days. Not getting to those yet. You don't need doors. Fuel filler's in. I think I covered that back. Tail lights are in. All the wiring is done from back to front. I got the lens for the license plate lens is all wired up. All the dash stuff is done. I hooked up the windshield wiper wiring that had just there loosely, so that's all done. I got to figure out how to tuck up the relays and flashers and stuff, but that's for another day. I want to be able to hear them and see them working. And that brings us to the engine bay. Now, reminder, this is a Ford 5.0 out of a Lincoln with the Ford Explorer front dress, okay? Couple things. I really wanted the wiring to be very neat. A lot of Broncos I see engine bay pictures of, they're either the high-end restorations where there's like custom radiator covers and all kinds of nonsense. I wasn't going to go to that level. I just wanted it to be super clean down here. That's why I body worked the wheel well tops, because I wanted them to be on display. So what I did was with this wiring loom, I take it up through the hood bracket, keep it tucked up, and then it dips down and over to the engine. I've got my painless MIDI fuse screwed onto the firewall. The solenoid is in its factory location. And then all the headlight wiring is sort of tucked in here. I got the Tom's LED kit, so you only wire one side, and I took it behind the radiator over to the other side. Over here, same sort of story. There's a lot fewer wires, but basically tuck it up through there using the power braid from Painless, and then behind the combination washer coolant jug thing, I've also got a sneaky carbon charcoal canister down there. And then I dropped the rest down there and took it atop the frame rail for the wiring. All went very smooth. A lot of customizing of the Painless kit. Now let's talk about the Explorer front dress. First of all, the heater hoses I got from Tom's. It's the silicone kit. I wasn't sure it would work at first, but it fits fine. Water neck, you want a Ford 5.0 like a 90 GT type straight up water neck. I had two from the motors that I've pulled, and I just sandblasted it and painted it, so reuse that. It doesn't, the aftermarket ones have the MPT bung for another sensor, but I'll get to that. Then you've got the bypass here, which is part number 20662, Gates. For the upper hose, use the Mustang. Well, that's upside down. It's 21159. This is just a Mustang upper. It clears the Explorer front dress fine. For the lower, I thought I had that figured out. Let me take you over here. I thought I was going to use this Master Pro 2475, which is the right length and bends. But the Tom's radiator has an 1.5 inch outlet, not an 1 3/4. So I just bought a random 1.5 inch radiator hose, and I've got a coupler going. So between the two, I can put something together. And actually, the coupler has a 1/8 NPT fitting in it. So if I ever switch to EFI, I've got a place for my coolant sensor. For ignition, I went with a Summit Ready to Run distributor. I decided to go against the HEI. Let me just show you how big the HEI is compared to this. HEI versus Ready to Run. I mean, it's a night and day difference. But when you go with an HEI, when you go with the Ready to Run, you need a coil. With the Explorer front dress, there's really nowhere to mount a coil on the motor that's good. I found, if you have suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Some guys make a bracket here, but then it's horizontal. I just located it down there on the wheel well. It's vertical, it's easy access to this wiring loom that goes up to the engine. All I have going up to the engine is really a choke and the ready to run connections. And then I've got a couple extra wires in this loom. If I ever convert to EFI, these run all the way back under the dash. So in case I need to have some wires going back under the dash or cut into my fuel relay that's under the dash, I don't have to rerun any wiring. The serpentine is too long. I think that's how it's run, but the belt I have is too long. So I got to do the rope trick and go find a belt that works. Everything under here is hooked up. All the vacuum lines are hooked up, including the PCV valve, the breather, the brake booster, the heater overflow. I need a radiator cap, and I need to run my, these are loose right now. I haven't tightened up the umbrella zip ties yet because I need to run my washer. I'm waiting on a couple nozzles. Oh, if you're running AVS carburetor, they're wide. I don't know if this is a problem with Holley, but with the Ford bell crank thing, you can't mount this. You can't mount this bar facing that way, the way it shows in the diagrams. I know the focus is all over the place. Sorry. So you have to mount it this way, but only this side clips will work. So rather than ordering a whole, just one clip, I found this Dorman Help Kit 41017. It's got a bunch of the left and right clips. So I was able to get that figured out. For looming, I had some Scott Drake looms, but they don't fit the wires. The wires are too fat. So I did some poor man looms. I'm sure you guys all know about this, but basically you run one long zip tie across and 3 or 4, depending on how many wires you have, thin zip ties around the thick zip tie, and then tighten it all down and it becomes a loom. Again, it's a poor man's loom, but cleans up the engine bay, it looks nice. I've got this set, I primed the motor. I've got this set up with one pointed that way, generally speaking. I've got some, it hits here and it hits here, but I looked at it and it looks like enough degrees of advanced potential adjustability, so I'm cool with that. I did dial this down based on the comments, like 4 turns, because I hear it comes over advanced, and I can adjust that with a little Allen wrench as we go. I need to hook up that vacuum, obviously. I need to hook up the vacuum from the canister to the carb, and I'm gonna use this Dorman 47311. It's just it's basically a, what do you call this? It's a metered orifice. So it's got a tiny hole in there. You can't really see it. So it's basically, let's see if you can see that. Focus. It's got a tiny orifice in it. So it's a very controlled vacuum leak. So it doesn't mess with your engine running, but it purges the vacuum canister into the carb as you drive. So that's just my little trick for running a vacuum canister without having to have a valve for the purge. Normally you got to wait till the engine's warm, or there's electronic ones that do it over a certain RPM. This is just constant, but that's such a small leak, it's not going to affect anything. Finally, I haven't hooked up the brakes yet. I need to pull the master off, bench bleed it, and then put the brakes on. Steering's done. The hose for the conversion to the so the fitting for the conversion from the Explorer power steering pump you can get from Tom's. I forget the part number. And then I just went and ordered a custom hose. I believe this is 20 inches in length from Hydraulic Hose Warehouse. And then that completes the, it just gets 6AN fittings on either side. And I got an adapter to go from whatever the steering box is to a 6AN. This is stock Explorer reservoir. Okay, and then fuel. I had my fuel lines run. I decided to locate my regulator here on the wheel well so I can see it when I'm looking over from the driver's side. And it's good location, it's away from the headers, and then this will just swing over and attach to the carb. I had to get a different air cleaner, so the 14-inch air cleaner I got from Tom's hits the bell crank, so that's not going to work. So I bought a 12-inch oval, which should clear everything fine. Those 14-inch air cleaners also hit the distributor if you're using an HEI, but it clears this one. It also doesn't clear, the low profile doesn't clear this, the fuel fittings, so I had to get one without the drop base. I've got a 1-inch body lift, and I can always get a 2-inch air filter instead of a 3-inch. This thing isn't exactly a high horsepower monster, so shouldn't be a problem. Okay, now let's talk about the bad. She's starting to look good, isn't she? Oh man. So this is pretty, I mean, you guys can tell, this is pretty close to running. Everything's wired, but I'm missing one thing, and that's the ignition tumbler. I know I ordered one, and I know Tom sent me one. It's somewhere in the shop, and it's not in any of the places it should be, so I'm dying here. I want to get the key thing so I can fill it with fuel and fire it up. I mean, it is ready to go. So kind of annoyed about that. That's just me being dumb. Wish me luck finding it. The next steps are, I'm going to tackle the interior. I've got the rubber mat kit for the interior with the chrome hold down strips. I got to do my boot, my shifter, and the pedal covers, and then I'm ready for seats. Now for seats, I ordered my upholstery in December, I think. December or November. Still hasn't come. I've got the foam. I just need the upholstery, so I'm just waiting on that. If push comes to shove, I'll just throw the old driver's seat in here, wipe it down, bolt it down temporarily so that I can at least drive it. Oh, also, you may have noticed, the wheels are off at powder coating. I'm going with a porcelain white, which is sort of the closest Prismacolor match to the Wimbledon white, I think, I hope. Luckily, you don't really see the front and the side at the same time, so I don't think it's gonna screw your eyes up too bad. And then for tires, I was gonna keep those Duelers, or whatever they were, the Bridgestone Duelers. I really liked them, but in the end, I decided it's not worth the risk. So they were date coded 05. That's pretty old. So let me show you the tires I got. We gotta go to Mrs. Matt's garage for that. Oh, hello, TJ. I've got my visors in here. I've got upholstery and foam and headliners and all kinds of stuff. But what I brought you in here was to see the tires. I went with the BF Goodrich All-Terrain TAs, 3950/15. I love them. It's a classic look. It's as close to a bias ply look as you can get, in my opinion. And they're super reliable tires. I've had them on many vehicles and I love them. I got 5. So they had to order the powder coating color. Why didn't I paint them? I'm so sick of paint. The last thing I have to paint is the hardtop and the liftgate, and I'm done. And I just don't want to paint anymore. So I'm over it. I haven't outsourced anything on this job other than the sandblasting. Can you believe it? Every single thing I've done myself. I've rebuilt the motor. I painted and body worked everything, and I'm really proud of that, but at this point, I just want to be done. And, you know, with taking the hubcaps on and off, the powder coating is going to stand up to that abuse a lot longer, and it'll look super sharp. So don't judge me for that. Carbs and Edelbrock AVS2, I used to have this on the Scout, so I'm going to have to tune it for the Bronco. I've got the O2 sensor hooked up to a wideband O2 whatever gauge, so I can tune with the AFR gauge. So what's left to do is get the wheels and tires on here. Well, sorry, bench bleed the master, hook it up, bleed the brakes, see if there are any leaks. I did get a little weld slag on one of the weld lines, or on one of the brake lines, the long one that runs to the back. I don't think there's a leak there, but won't know until I put it under pressure. So wish me luck on that. I gotta fill the radiator. I think there's gonna be a leak here because there was something wrong with where the petcock goes in. The inside had some weird sugaring from the weld. And so when I went to put in you take out the petcock and you put in a sacrificial cathode, and it was interfering and started tweaking the threads. So I pulled it out, I chased it with an NPT tap, but when I put the cathode in, it like bottomed all the way out. So I don't know if it's not bottomed out, but like I went until the head of it hit in other words, there was not enough thread before it got tight, which is what you need for an MPT. So that might be a problem. If that's the case, I'll have to pull this and find somebody who can weld on aluminum and weld in a new bung for me. Not a huge deal. And I need to find a serpentine belt that's long enough, the correct length. And then she's ready to fire and drive. Oh, I need drive shafts. Oh, I need to finish hooking up the stereo. God. Next time on Matt's Garage.